Okay, so then just the link.
Jesteś jedną osobą, która jest podwójnie na tym.
No,
Żebym
i wszystko słychać, co mówisz, i wszystko się nagrywa już.
Poważnie? Jak ja mówię, to też wszystko słychać?
Tak, no tu jest mikrofon pomiędzy nami.
A, okej. Muszę się rozebrać. Masz.
Okay, we're good.
Okay.
So, hi everyone, hi Byron.
Hello.
Thank you for participating in this project. So, first of all, this is the Virtual Dialogues for Social Change project that is happening because Youth in Action. And Magda and Piotr, so they're here, they organized this and they made me do this. And I'm very happy and thankful. I'm AJ and I'm doing this with Gosia, but she couldn't be here today. And also thank you to Together Polska organization, which is a non-profit organization, and this project is also happening thanks to them. Yeah, okay, now, can you introduce yourself and say all the things you need to say?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Hi. So, hi. I'm Byron Cox. I am probably most known for kind of being a pretty active dancer in the communities of starting in New York City. Well, creating a lot of projects and doing various things in New York City, and then taking those projects and ideas and moving them worldwide. I have certain things that I tie myself into, like democratization of dance and looking at dance as a part of kind of a social dynamic. And I'm really happy to be here with you guys and kind of sharing some of those ideas and ideals with all you folks. So yeah, hi. I'm actually really tall, but not on this thing, right? So if you have any questions about that, like how does it feel to be huge in dancing, feel free to ask those kind of things. If you have questions or ideas about what's going on in your own communities or how those communities, how it's different from any other ones that I've had an opportunity to experience, feel free to ask those kind of questions. If you have fancy type questions like what kind of sneakers should I wear, it's fine. But in my opinion, all of these things actually have a large impact on how we communicate what we think is available to us, like as people, because we're humans. I'm human. AJ's like anyway, and I think if we can kind of create dialogue that maybe starts with dance but continues as a lifestyle, I think that's just healthy overall.
Good, all right, okay, thanks. So that will be it. Thank you very much for participating. Okay. Well, yeah, thank you. So I hope that all the people that are here will take part, and you guys can ask questions in the chat, okay? Or if you want to, you can just turn on your microphone and start talking. Okay, so well, Byron, we had a conversation before about the topics that you would like to talk about. So I think we can definitely start with this. How about that?
Okay, and what question would you like to start with?
Okay, the first one, and that was, let me see, where do I have it? Okay, street dance and the lesson of terminology and labels. So that sounds really interesting, and I'm actually very excited to hear what you got to say about this.
Let's see here. Each one of these topics can be sort of a bit long-winded, but I will attempt to sort of make them practical. I like to. Human history has gone through different phases. Okay. Um, in these phases, we've seen um, different things separate us. Not sep- I don't. I mean, I'm not speaking about separation, but it's there's been different things that have been the focus of the hierarchy or how we rank ourselves in our society, right? So there was a time when, um, like, okay, let's say we were a group of people, and there was lions or something, right? So it was easier for us to survive as a people if there was more of us, because somebody could be responsible for the farm, somebody else for the family, and somebody else to stand outside and go, "There's a lion." And so the big, strong people, they were the ones who had the power because they were strong enough to fight off the lions. They were strong enough to turn over the soil and grow food. Um, they could protect the tribe. Then, during the industrial age, we had a time when instead of just putting seeds in the ground, we decided that if I put seeds in the ground a certain time, a certain way, um, I can grow more food. Now, the person who thinks that, hey, I know you're big and strong, and I know you can tell us when the lions are coming, but if you don't listen to me, if you don't put seeds in the ground at this time of year, and if you don't, water your land a certain way, then you're not going to be as healthy a tribe as as my tribe. You understand? And so knowledge started taking a little bit. We'll say it started gaining power in societies of human societies because if you were smart enough and you had the information, you had access to better food, to better lifestyles. Whereas before that time, as long as you had the strongest people, you had better protection and more value in your society. Believe it or not, this phenomena, which goes back close to a thousand years, has held true almost all the way until the internet era. See, the internet era took knowledge and it made it commonplace. It made a lot of information available to all types of people all over the world. Right? And the ARPANET, or the internet, started in 1974, around there. So with this information being so highly available, power is sometimes often confused with being stronger or bigger or richer when there's a significant amount of power given to those who know or what we consider to be the knowledge base. Okay? I'm setting that as a precedent because that's really important for us to understand what we say, how we say it, and what that represents when we say it. Okay? Because knowledge is powerful, and sometimes a misunderstanding of where that is taken can cause problems for the village. All right. When it comes to, I think, the label of street dance, or a lot of the labels that we use in street dance culture, you have to sort of at least investigate, at least at the high level, some of what has been America's history with labels. The United States originally started as a country that was based on revolutionary ideas that were both capitalistic as well as religious. And through a very long and complicated meshing of these ideas, the United States broke away from England and started what was essentially a country and a business enterprise in the United States. From that point, trying to define what was America, what was being American, was always and has even to today been kind of under assault. The people who are commonly referred to as Americans are not native to the soil of America. They've been here even now, maybe 300 years. So when you talk about identity and you say, oh, you're an American, then if you're talking about landmass and history, then you're only talking about the Native American populations that are currently getting smaller and smaller in the United States. So being an American for many Americans is it starts off very complicated, we'll say. Then you talk about many of the people who helped build the Americas, their origins and their histories, and you end up with even more complications with respect to those labels. The Chinese built the railroads throughout, connecting the East and the West, yet they didn't have voting rights and didn't have the ability to take part in the American dream for over 100 years. African Americans had huge part in creating the financial climate that we benefit from today in the United States, but have fought and continue to fight up through the 60s and the 70s to have full voting rights and the ability to share a drinking fountain. These things all tie in because when you look at terms like street dance, the term street, for example, can potentially marginalize or can potentially cast a shadow as to what it is that we are participating in. Okay? Traditionally, the arts in the United States are supported by large foundations such as the Rockefellers, such as the Endowment for the Arts, both private and public money. Very limited amounts of individuals have had access to that kind of capital where they could support and maintain and sustain the arts throughout the United States, especially considering the size of the United States and the diversity. The United States is 50 states, but all under one roof. So in looking at the identity of the people who are sustaining these cultures, you start to understand where they might place their emphasis. The Chinese, the African Americans, the Native Americans, and many other populations that may be the core of the American experience, their arts have never necessarily been at the core of what is financed in the United States. And when we say, for example, street dance, you automatically start a labeling process that, in my opinion, is a bit dangerous, and this is why. Many people, when you say the arts, right, we're talking about ballet at its core, and then jazz, tap, and ballet has become the moniker or the link that you say in the United States when it comes to what you take as a child if you're going to become a trained dancer. Okay. Now look at all of these various labels. right? So if you're an artist, if what you do is art, then for you to have training, you must take jazz, tap, or ballet. So what exactly are you, or what are you participating in, if you're in one of over 100 other very critical, very long-standing art forms that have helped make up, the fabric of the United States? Are you something else? The label street connotates that it's not a part of that jazz, tap, ballet, train dancing arts. If you look at another section of the American history, you'll also notice that I guess the most obvious is the studio history. Right? When you look at the Ziegfeld Follies of the 1920s and 30s, and then all the way through to when people started talking on film, and you started seeing Fred Astaire and hearing the taps on the on in the talkies or the talking films. The United States has always invested very, very heavily in this other thing that we call entertainment. But entertainment was never necessarily sustained as an art form. It was something that you could commodify or something that you could buy and sell at will. Why is that important? Because if we're defining dance, if we're defining social dance as a form of communication, which is the perspective that I take that seems to be the most logical, because it defies all time and space and everything else, then what are the functional differences between these trained dance forms and what are we a part of? And by labeling ourselves or allowing ourselves to be labeled as street, it has automatically allowed for many other people to marginalize us as that other thing that people do. Now, if we're only entertainment, then we can be picked up and we can be let go at will. And given that the United States is based on a capitalist system for which, well, market forces allow things to have value, we need to be careful in saying that, well, market forces give us the value of what we are participating in. If we're talking about the products of quote-unquote street dance, then sure, a video can be popular, it cannot be popular. A move can be popular, it cannot be popular. That's fine. A movie can be popular and not popular. But social dance, what these dances, why they started, and why we've maintained the incredible dynamic that we currently participate in, those things are, in my opinion, not allowed to be marginalized. Because what you're marginalizing now is the ability for humans to communicate with each other in probably one of the most tangible and most productive forms that we've had throughout this entire throughout the entire history of mankind.
Yeah, can I just interrupt you for a second? So when I'm thinking about this all, and you're like talking about American history and stuff, I'm trying to think of it also in like Polish way, since I come from Poland and I see this hip hop thing here. And so I got a question for you, because yeah, that's right. Well, hip hop, it all comes from America, and that's obvious. But then, if we got it here, what do you think about doing a fusion? Because this is what I don't see in Poland, really. That well, I'm not speaking for all the people, but what I see the most is that people are trying to dance just like people in New York, like people in America, but there's not enough, for me, there's not enough Polish flavor on this. So, I'm thinking about starting mixing it, and since this is like a social dance, why can't we mix Polish social dances, which we have? We have like 5 top most like national Polish dances, and I don't see these fusions, and I think I should, because that's our history. So why can't we mix this?
Well, I think what we're talking. I think the other part of Well, let's look at it. Okay, let's look at it this way. All right. So when b-boying started, right? At its origins, it wasn't necessarily a pure form, right? It was a number of circumstances coming together, and from your influences of gang culture, from the influences of the attempted marginalization of the and decimation of the Bronx. It was also, a reaction to racism and other things, both institutionally created, government backed basically, and financial capital. A lot of these things came together, and the voice of revolution came out through hip hop music, and part of its movement was b-boying. Okay, a lot of these factors coming together. What b-boying is, in that form, is necessary to be maintained because it constantly answers that question well. Okay? Now, so, and this is what I mean. Okay. Graffiti, right, traditionally is done with spray cans and stencils and so on and so forth. It has a long-standing tradition of allowing artists to speak in a certain form. If we start putting crayons, right, crayons on walls, and then we start putting pencils on walls, and matter of fact, if I start making wallpaper and I start calling it graffiti too, do you maintain the power? Do you maintain the ideal that graffiti has, or do you give the power of graffiti to IKEA? Because if IKEA can make graffiti wallpaper, and we say that that's graffiti too, then it's in my opinion, it's dangerous because you lose the emphasis. I don't mind that people are attempting to copy what is the purest form of these elements, because elements or tenets are what humans have always based themselves in to create progress. What I am looking for, though, is if one is deeply rooted in something, and I think b-boying is probably a great example of that, then once the root is strong, then everything else you add to the outside doesn't turn the tree over. But for example, if you wanted to make or include Polish dance in hip hop, if the hip hop root is weak, then what you have is a mess of dance, right? What hip hop could give, what the power of it can give to music and give to the rest of the world, will be misunderstood as a strange mix of something, instead of it being hip hop with Polish influence. Think about it this way too. Sometimes it's really beautiful when you see ballet, right? Strong ballet technique with a hint of folk art, right? Because you see, if you've come for the ballet, you see the ballet and you see the richness of that experience, and then you're getting a little something extra on top of that, The Ballet Hispanico, their ballet is strong in ballet technique and infused with very, very strong flamenco and other dance forms that are native to its environment. But if the ballet is weak, it's an insult to the ballet, and thus they wouldn't be booking the tours that they do. So I mean, I look forward to additional, and I think in a way, it depends on how you look at it. In a way, Polish influence has always been in everything that is American, because Polish people have always been in America. It's not some like, oh my God, Polish people. It's like they've always been a part of the dynamic. So in a way, it's almost like saying that, if hip hop is American, then hip hop is Polish in a way, if that makes sense. So I think we look for additional influences. We look for, you know, the music. We look for, we look for a movement, and yeah, we're excited that there's Polish rap. We're excited that there are Polish dancers. I already see a certain Polish flavor in the dancers, as I probably stated many times. Um, so the deeper you create the roots, I think, in the hip hop and understanding kind of what its power is, right? The more opportunity to add those additional things that are nuances either on an individual level, like as an individual dancer, there's things that you might do, you have as an ability, you can add that on top. As a community, community meaning it could be all Poland, it could be something you do in a certain city, it could be something that you've done because you're a part of a certain religious group or whatever. But we welcome these things as long as the root is strong.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, great. Yeah, all right. Yeah, you can keep going, or
Yeah.
you can ask you the other question. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. You make sense, basically.
No, I mean, it's and I think. All right, so KRS-One was in Amsterdam and did an incredible speech some time ago, kind of with respect to hip hop culture, and he's saying, to them sometimes, why aren't you making more and contributing more and saying these things and teaching us through this medium about your culture? Because that's what happened internally for many of us, and I'll say personally as an African American, a lot of our stories, a lot of my story, a lot of what I attach myself to could be expressed, through hip hop to people who otherwise may not necessarily understand me. So I think it's an opportunity to take, a lot of these incredible dynamic Polish history, and you're gonna have to be very. It's not going to be easy, but it sure can be fun. Figuring out ways of taking your sound, taking your stories, taking who you are, and then having that be understood, have it showing its appeal to a people who, or to populations who may not be familiar with various Polish traditions or Polish people and so on and so forth. But hip hop welcomes kind of that challenge because that's how we started, and basically make it hot, make it attractive, make it compelling, and pull people into that story. Okay, I talk a lot, so different question or whatever.
Generalnie mulą.
No, you're doing great. Radek wanted to say something.
I wanted to say that hello everybody. I wanted to say, Byron, that when you said about Polish influence of hip hop or of hip hop in Polish culture to Polish culture, I don't know, Polish dances, and you said about Polish people in United States. I think that the United States are multicultural, so they have many people from other countries, so it always been like this. So the hip hop culture, in my opinion, is a bit it's a young thing. So if in another way, if we're looking that the ballet have, I don't know, 200, 300 years, maybe more, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say only that thing that this new thing like, I don't know, hip hop, because we have this in Earth, I don't know, maybe 13 years, maybe. So this is the young thing. So only this.
It's funny. It brings up a really interesting point. There are schools of thought that are dealing with like kind of the human evolutionary process, right? And how quickly things are adapting now. And all right. So we go back to that first example, since it's kind of one that's already out there, right? It took a while to go from It took a while to go from just going out and finding berries and eating animals to knowing that we're gonna put some seeds in the ground and eat the food that we grow, right? And then it took an even longer time. Well, not a longer time, but then we started to realize, like, okay, the tools that we use to put, the seeds in the ground, we should concentrate on that a bit, right? We should work on that. And then when it came to the tools, like, from just like stone tools to actually making tools, in fire and stuff, there's like hundreds of years, right? So it's like we were hunting, and then we're using stone tools, and then eventually we decided to make like metal tools, and then those metal tools got better and better, and then we started working on manufacturing processes and all this other stuff. The time between us making tools and now, as far as the course of human history, is really short. So then I started looking at, like, okay, well, if that's the case, then all right. How quickly are we at least evolving intellectually, right? Like, and then moving forward, what's probably an accurate timeline for kind of the evolutionary process of the human, or the evolutionary process of the human mind, right? And that got really crazy because, again, once information changed, once information went out into the world quickly, millions, even maybe billions of people started working on ideas at the same time, all the time. Okay? Google, and what's the underlying technology in Google, is being worked on, the Linux platform is being worked on all over planet Earth all the time. People use it different ways, right? Because Linux is a free open source platform, right? But even open source as an idea is a pretty new idea. I mean, I can be from China, I can be from Hawaii, I can be from anywhere, and I can contribute to this net of stuff. And that's pretty crazy, because now all of humanity is doing something together. And since that has never happened before, I don't know what the precedent is as far as timeline, but I do subscribe to a certain thing, in that we are way closer to being a lot more of what we think than we are as far as an identity, as far as a culture, as far as a people, and as far as a species, than we are separated by physical or time or space or anything else. Tomorrow you can start a Kickstarter about making a language. You could make a language right now, and you could go on the internet, and you could get, and if you're cool enough, you can get a whole bunch of people to be like, dude, let's make a language. And suddenly, okay, and for whatever reason, everyone would be speaking erratic, right? And it would be amazing, right? And like, and no one would know. We couldn't, it wouldn't be because there was a volcano, or that there was an earthquake and people were separated by some big landmass. It wouldn't be because the dinosaurs ate anybody. It would just be because you had a great idea and you started a Kickstarter and you had a really cool video on YouTube and now everybody speaks Athletic, right? And as silly as an idea is it's kind of that possibility, and the power of that possibility, I think I think it should not be understated. I think as much as hip hop history, goes back maybe 30, 40 years, what happens in the next 3 years could determine whether hip hop exists or stops existing. I think that's how powerful. I think that's how powerful a time we are in currently. And I say that too because we're in a time when, since there is so much information, since there's so much access, sometimes we feel like we've lost the power of change, the power of influence, right? In many countries, in most democratically elected countries that have had democracies over, we'll say, over 30 years, many of these countries, people feel like they've lost a certain amount of power, right? Like, it doesn't matter who I vote for, they're just going to screw up anyway. There's a certain amount of thought or feeling sometimes of that throughout many countries. And there was also a time when, go back a couple hundred years, and people would be in the streets with signs, and knocking on their doors, and at everybody's table, everyone would be talking about who's going to be elected, not only like the president, but the governor and the mayor, and it was a point of pride to say, hey, listen, my son or daughter or uncle is going to be the mayor or the senator, or is going to take, even office in school. What happened, right? We haven't really necessarily lost our power. There's just so much, there's so many stories happening to us at the same time. There is so much information, and given the shock of things that we see on Facebook and on YouTube, we feel that who we are and what we're participating in is becoming smaller and smaller. We as individuals are smaller and smaller because we're not that huge. We haven't jumped off a building. We haven't flown from outer space. We haven't done a quadruple flip. We haven't. We're not willing to run around in fishnets and skateboard while wearing neon and getting arrested. So since we don't do that, we're not that important. Our influence on the world is less and less. And I kind of believe the opposite. I believe there are corporations that want you to believe that because they want you to consume their products. They want you to sit there and look at Facebook. They want you to sit there and watch TV and watch the commercials. They want you to sit there and just feel like, well, since I don't influence anything, since there's no way I can be as amazing as what I'm seeing on the screen, let me just consume whatever I'm seeing, because that's my role, and I should accept that. And I think that's kind of sad. I think, and in tying it back into our discussion with respect to hip-hop, it's exciting. Right now is probably one of the most exciting times in human history. You can connect yourself to anyone, anywhere, and your story is important. Okay? Networks, the major networks all throughout the world, the TV networks, they used to have extreme amounts of power because there would only be 1 or 2 or 4, sometimes at tops 8 networks that controlled millions of people's opinions, what the news was, what was going on, and they could charge so much money for this and that, and there was a huge system, we'll say, around that. Okay? And then the internet came, and people said, you know, that TV show I was watching kind of sucks because I saw this person who writes incredible things, things that I can relate to, and I want to watch them. I don't want to watch regular TV, right? Now it's common that people don't even have TVs, or they use the big TVs as pretty much a monitor, and everything that they look at is a choice that they bring in through their internet. Right? That means that there's already a democratization process. There's already an empowerment of people who create good individual content. And that individual content, if you can work with it well, can be consumed by anyone. And the networks can do nothing about that. So the individual has extreme amounts of power and extreme amounts of connectivity and capability to have, you know, at least have the thing that they do and the thing that they feel be connected to other people who feel the same way. Now, some people feel the need to be connected to millions of people. Some people just want to be connected to one other person. But know that who you are and what you are and the value of that can not only influence, you know, your local community, but it can influence politics. It can influence your living conditions. It can influence where you live, how you live, how much money you make. You're in a lot more control than people will lead you to think. But I think each day can be very, very rewarding when you understand that who you are and what you're participating in and the consumption of that, you have direct influence into that, and you are actively influencing other people around you on a daily basis in a much grander scale than has ever been in human history. With the dance, I think this also kind of leads into a bit of the, you know, talk of kind of the global effects of some of the things that we participate in with dance and with hip hop and all that kind of stuff. Given this connectivity, given this high connectivity, we're seeing an overlap of cultures and expressions of culture, and expressions of people in fantastic ways. In ways that I would say even the governments and other organizations, even corporations, are having a hard time keeping up with. And to me, I think that's kind of fun. I think it's fun to know that we are participating in this kind of social artistic democracy that is allowing for change, allowing for understanding across cultures and across economics and language and everything else, faster and better than what I've seen, you know, in my background of watching kind of market economies and other things attempts to, you know, come together. And I say that, okay, for example, Juste Debout is one of the largest international phenomenons on planet Earth. Okay? And when you look at it, now understand that I have a large technology and corporate background. I also have worked in financial services for some time. And so when I look at these forces, when I look at how these things come together, I try not to just look at them as being, you know, just dance, just this, just that, because I think we're all, a lot of the things that we participate in are interconnected. Okay. Quickly, we'll say that politically, France has had an issue with their minority populations always. if you look at the construction of Paris, the areas that are mostly occupied by Africans and people of African and Arabic descent, those areas historically were not connected to the inner parts of Paris. So they were brought in for labor to help build and expand the industrialization of Paris, but they were not considered to be a part of its history. They were not considered to be a part of its culture. Up until today, many people, if you're of African or Arabic descent, but even if you're born in Paris, they'll interview you, let's say you're going to university, and they'll ask you, so where are you from? Now, you could be born in Paris, and the answer that you might say is, I'm from Paris, right? Because you were born in a hospital in Paris. And they'll ask you again, where are you from? So despite the fact that you speak French, your family has contributed to the economy of France, you were born in that hospital, all you have known is that country, you're still considered to be from somewhere else. That dynamic is still a very touchy topic in that country. Why is that important? Because then if that's the case, how is it that a dance and dance forms that are sustained and popularized by minority populations, such as the African and Arabic peoples in Paris, how is it that this group has made one of the largest dance events, dance economies in the world, even though nationally they're still considered to not even be a part of the fabric of their country? Is there an easy answer? No. But what lessons are learned from that? That anything is possible. That just like hip-hop in the United States, where they were building roads through people's backyards. They were cutting off electricity to people's homes in the Bronx during the time for which hip-hop started. And yet hip-hop is here today. So when we pay attention to that slice of history, we know that, well, okay, even under the worst circumstances, the individual has value. We see that theme repeated in a situation like a Juste Debout, where from being told that they can maybe have a jam in a basketball gym, way outside of the heart of Paris, from going from that to taking over the Palace de Bercy year after year and able to bring together 17,000 dancers after having 14 to 18 pre-selections all over the world. The example of a marginalized people, a people who are pushed to the edge, empowering themselves through this phenomenon of hip-hop, and then creating not only an event, not only participating, not only being cool dancers, but creating an entire dance economy around that, is taking that hip-hop and seeing it happen again and happen again. Okay? These are lessons that, in my opinion, are universal. They influence how you feel if you are in any city in Poland. Because then it's to say, okay, well, I'm in Poland, the economic climate currently in Poland with respect to the EU, with respect to Poland, and so forth, is this. Okay. Then where is the lesson that we can pull so that we can empower ourselves to not be under the situation anymore? And through this amazing phenomenon of hip-hop, we see that it is possible, number one. And it's possible beyond it just being something that we consume, but something that we can capitalize on to have the freedom to do and participate and be and eat and sleep and meet other people and do and participate in the things that that we enjoy about life to begin with. So there's the example of the Juste Debout, in my opinion, is yet another concrete example of hip hop manifesting itself and giving a voice to a people who otherwise would not have it. These examples are happening throughout the world in various different dynamics. Korean b-boy culture was supported by the Department of Tourism. Why? Because when b-boys would go to other countries and do well, people wanted to come to Korea. That's an interesting phenomena, a lesson that you can learn from, and perhaps maybe open your eyes to new and interesting opportunities given other dynamics or other funding or other opportunities within your government. Because maybe no one would think about asking the Department of Tourism in Poland for some assistance. Right? Japanese, at the time for which hip-hop gave rise in Japan, Japan was going through an incredibly bad 20-year financial recession. So the dance forms, and you can see that the Japanese dance economy is huge. How can it exist? Because, I mean, the Department of Tourism was not supporting the Japanese government, Japanese dance scene. How is that possible, right? So now you start looking culturally. You start looking at who or in what ways did they get together, and how do they mesh their networks for common good. And to me, I would say that quickly speaking, that one of the things that they've done well is notice that the cooperative product, like the ability for them to come together and overlap, right? Their studios, their events, the need to have that overlap empowers them to have enough merit to go to corporations like a Sony, like a Pioneer, and say, hey, let's work together because we are hip hop. We are dance, right? We represent a population of thousands and thousands and thousands of people across multiple zones. There isn't a single studio in Japan that is dictating or attempting to create the Japanese dance scene. But together, they have given rise and given power to something that is now undeniable, because the Japanese dance scene is one of the most fruitful and most prosperous and yet still growing dance scenes on earth. So the globalization of dance, I think, one shows the examples of, if you pay attention to the history of hip hop, you pay attention to the roots of how it's empowered peoples throughout time. Then you apply it to your situation and know that at the core of it, there's absolutely no way that you can 100% fail with hip hop. Because as soon as you feel that you have value, you've already accomplished something. Now you take that value and you find others who've also found value, and you continually build and build and build. But hip hop can't be denied because it can't be removed by any government body. It can't be removed by any popularity. It can't be stopped. And since it can't be stopped, once you start to network these pieces together well, then it's becomes something that can't be ignored. And when it can't be ignored, then it actually becomes an asset, becomes something that people want to use to help themselves make their life easier. Okay? For the Department of Tourism in Korea, it made their life easier, right? Because what do you want to do? Do you want to create something as big and as awesome as b-boying to attract people to come to Korea? Or do you just pay the b-boys? Do you want to, and this is what we're trying to say, is the power of hip-hop extends into so many what might be considered like disparate or finite things, but it is a force. It's like a force of nature at this stage, and since it is, everyone's got access. And if you learn from its history, if you learn from these various things, and you look at what is happening, around the world, you can take the lessons of what's happening around the world and use those things to empower your own communities. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Just people, if you got any questions, don't hesitate to ask. You can ask here or in the chat. And then Byron, what you said is, I think it's yeah, you just put it exactly in the words that people need to put it. And I also think that the kind of movement depends on where you come from. So as you said, if like when b-boys from Korea started traveling and people saw them, they wanted to go to Korea and check out the country. And I think this is also important right now, like as in hip hop or like choreography or any other style of dance. Poland, like Polish people, will never be able to dance as Japanese or or French will never be able to dance like Italian because they're different. I think the culture is very important. So wherever you come from, whatever your roots are, that influences your dance. And I think that some people they also don't see this. They want to move like someone else, and it also refers to choreography most of the times.
Well, there's the cipher. I guess we can. Maybe I should have maybe included this, but there's a. All right, so this could get really long, but I'm not gonna make it too long. Because cipher, what the cipher means and cipher etiquette, all that kind of stuff is very long. But let's talk about one component with respect to what you're saying. In that, all right. So here's where history comes into play, right? If a dancer, one thing about hip hop and its empowerment, I'm going to keep kind of touching on certain buzzwords so that they kind of always kind of lock in. All right, so empowerment. So if an individual has power in hip hop, then how does that play out in a cipher? And then how does that? What is its relevance in a community? Because in my dialogues with respect to the hip hop and house and all these other various cultures, I refer to them as communication. Thus, so since it is communication, it's you're communicating to communities. You're speaking to communities, right? All right. So if there's a community, then no one person's thing is the entire thing, right? So if that's the case, then what are we in? Like, what are we participating in, right? And I think it's safe to say that there are certain common elements that communities use to tie themselves to musical phenomena, especially in the hip hop world, right? New music comes out, we're trying to figure out how we wiggle our butt to it. And that that's cool. Like, it's fun, because music comes out, these various people are making music in Poland, people are making music in Australia, people are making music in LA. And again, with the electronic music revolution, you can make it in more places and more people can do stuff with it. All right. So the imitation of each other is natural, and I actually welcome it to a degree, in that that's part of our connectedness, right? If it's dope, it's dope, because I myself can't smash you in the head with dope, but you can. But dope can resonate with people, and people are saying, "Hey, that's kind of cool. Like I like the way that feels with respect to this music." Right? But it takes a body of people to agree to be into it. And it doesn't seem like much, like because you can just see something and just say, yeah, that's pretty cool. And that's it. And that's for many people, that's all it takes. But if you start to analyze that process, you start realizing that we are developing the vocabulary that we use to communicate. We're developing that vocabulary dynamically. I may not like everything, but then that's where we come back to the cipher, right, as a means of having that intelligent debate. Because this movement, or what we're participating in communication-wise, is based in movement. And we can say quite a bit to each other about what we like, what we don't like, what we feel like, who we are through this movement, right? And through this stuff. And we want to be understood. So, if we want to be understood, I need to say something that somebody else understands. Otherwise, for everything that I feel, I'm going to be misunderstood. No one's going to get it, right? But then, once I'm understood, hey, community, I'm saying this thing, okay, cool. By the way, I want to say this other thing too, la 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 la, right? And everybody goes, okay, all right, I see where you're going with that, right? That dynamic, my new little thing, can become a part of the new dynamic, because all right, even to oversimplify this, right? Let's say somebody starts making like shashu beats, but like with a whole lot of comedy in it, like some kind of funny sounds in the music, right? And because there's some funny sounds in the music, I go like this whenever I dance. I do everything else. I do the Running Man, I do some isolations, I do whatever, but then somewhere in there I go like this, right? That could be the new thing. Why? Because, it's kind of this funny thing in the music, and we understand that you're coming in, and we understand that you're speaking the language of hip-hop, and now that we understand those things, hey, let's put a little something like that in there. So maybe 50 people start doing this every now and then, or they do it reverse. Oh, that's hot, he did it reverse, right? It becomes a part of the dynamic, and then you start to, maybe you start to understand me a bit. Like, okay, that Byron guy is a little, yeah, you're right. But you learn that not by talking to me, but by seeing that my contribution to the language, or my contribution to the fabric of the communication, included something that had something to do with comedy. So I'm happy, I'm happy in a way that, the Germans currently, or I'll say Dusseldorf, has influenced part of the dialogue, the dance communication thing, because they're working hard, they're doing their thing, right? Now, if I disagree with the way somebody else is dancing, I'm happy that hip-hop has a way for me to deal with it. Be like, hey, that's stupid. And then I jump out there and I do my thing. And they're going to say, hey, that's awesome. No, maybe they think what I do is stupid. But we're gonna go at it, right? And what's the worst thing that's going to happen? We're going to get sweaty, right? We're going to get, like, great skin. We're going to be stronger. We're going to lose some weight. All in this communication, all dealing in this dynamic, right? And do I think that Polish people can contribute to that? Sure. So I would say that participate in understanding what's out there. Don't be left behind. There's some cool stuff out there, right? But yeah, once you understand how to speak the language, speak the cool, then flip it. Let us know a little bit about yourself. Make us go, what the heck? That was cool, right? And then we got to go do our homework and going to your festivals and making sure we don't get hit by swords by knights and crusaders. Oh, that's kind of a long story. But sorry, let me subtitle that. When I came to Poland, I was in Gdansk, and I saw some festival that they had where I saw the kind of changing over from the Crusaders into the modern day or a more modern Polish government, and it was cool. Okay, there was people singing, and there were horses, and I'm with that, right? So if ever you want me to judge your event, if you want to bring me in on a horse, I'm with that. Okay, just to let you know, I'm all like thumbs up for horses and knights and all that kind of stuff.
Well,
Okay.
Byron, I'm afraid that whoever watches this from wherever, like, is not Polish, will think that Poland is all about horses, knights, and crusaders still. So,
And I think that's great. I think I think it'll be a welcome surprise, and I think we need some surprises in our life. Like they get off the plane, and there's electricity, right? And that's good for them. It's good. It's a learning experience.
unbelievable. Yeah, there is electricity, and we have laptops and stuff. Just so you know, just so you guys know, right? And we have yellow glasses.
And the black hat.
And we speak Radek's language.
Oh yeah, everybody. The next Google meeting hangout will be the initial, Radek as a language thing. So I invite you to participate because Radiki is going to be it's going to be the new hotness, and you don't want to be left out. You don't want to be left out of that. Okay.
That's right. That's right. Okay, does anyone have any questions? People, you're here, you can ask questions all the time in the chat. And if you don't ask questions, then I don't know if there's anything you might want to say.
Like reading through the chat now, but I made the font too small, so I'm just like, Maybe you should also ask, like, in Polski, because that could be like, oh, right. What the hell did you just say? It's just normal.
I think everyone here speaks English, so it's not a problem for them.
Okay, good.
Every person, we need to make them speak English. So, right?
Yeah, right.
Do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Why? Why not?
I think I know Byron a bit, so we understand each other.
With no words.
It all depends. It's all about humanity. So.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah. If no one has any questions, then I'm just gonna ask you if you want to add anything to whatever you just said.
Oh, let's see. I mean, I think kind of one of the points of having these kind of forums is dealing with, the arts and dealing with dance and dealing with these things as a product of social change, right? So I think we need to look at a few key points as we go through our daily lives. When we're participating in dance, when we are participating in the music, when we are creating events, you need certain pillars, you need certain very stable things in place to have things be productive, right? You need to realize who you are, and realize, like, realize who you are and realize what it is, right? That it can be a number of things. You know, a song, a dance move, a studio, a teacher, uh, you know, a scene, etc. You know, a battle, an event, a cipher, or whatever. And know, but with the investment of knowing, like, okay, like you have value, and what you're participating in has value too, and you want those things to blend. Too much of either one, and it's a mess. And you want there to be a blend of those things. I, Byron, have value, right? But when I call myself a house dancer, being a house dancer doesn't mean everything I do. That means that I represent a community, and there are certain components of house dance that I have learned, I participate in, and I am giving out so that people can come in and have access or have more understanding or something of that community. Just because I own a Samsung phone doesn't mean that to be in house dance you have to buy a Samsung phone. I know it sounds like it's kind of crazy, but it's I think it's important to know the difference. Okay, communities are communities. People are people. People participate in communities and make them what they are. But in my opinion, no one person is a community. Given that, the respect and the diligence one gives to a community maybe helps to show how much they'll help shape the future of that community, or how much they will be responsible for that community. But being a part of a community is a responsibility, right? Now you're a part of that community. As you participate in that community, you need to look at what does that community mean to other communities, other dance communities, just regular communities like your town or your city or the state, and see what is that, because you know that your community has a value, then that value doesn't change when you look at it at a state level, at a government level, at a funding level, at a corporate level. And I think there's a major problem with our current system of how we value what we are and what we're a part of. And sometimes it goes all the way back. We don't see ourselves as having value, then what we participate in doesn't have any real value, so why would anybody else value us? And I would like to help participate in removing those systemic problems, because once you start removing those blocks, then you start getting into a situation where you can really at least have the forum have its opportunity to breathe the way it's supposed to breathe without you choking it. You understand? If you're part of a community, you want the community to be able to speak to other communities openly, evenly. But if you're choking it from the inside, then you're not even giving it a chance to speak. If you're afraid of the National Ballet, if you're afraid of their director, you're afraid of their dancers, you're afraid of their programs, then you're not giving them a chance to value you, because you've already said that you're not good enough to sit at the same table. And I think we need to change that. I think the lesson of hip-hop says that every individual has value, the community itself has value, and as such needs to be respected on all levels. I think we need to be careful as consumers as well, because we are participants as consumers. We buy music, we go to events, we make events, we support websites and videos and all this kind of stuff, because we are currently in what we call an attention economy. People are buying and selling your time. basically, So you need to realize that time, of all the things that are growing in the world, time is not. So you've got 24 hours in a day, and that's it. And whereas before you might think, well, it doesn't matter if I just click on this or I do that or whatever. It all matters now because there's a lot of money being spent to buy your time. So when you skip, that event and that workshop and that party that was good for, things that are good and probably good for your community, the community that you claim that you want to participate in, where did that time go? Because someone bought it. Someone's got it. Very rarely are we just sitting at home, computers off, phone off, in the dark or sitting under a light. Where oftentimes, if we're awake, we're connected. And if we're connected, our time is being spent by somebody. It's being bought by somebody. And if you're not participating in the things that are of value to you, then you sold it to somebody else. And just know that that's a conscious choice that you're making. Well, it's a choice that you're making, conscious or unconscious. So just be aware of, again, your value, the value of the community that you're participating in. Recognize that by contributing to that value, you're now contributing to the value of the rest of the people that if these are your friends, these are people you think pretty cool, then by being a valuable part of that group is important. It's important as a consumer, which means you need to buy stuff. You need to buy stuff no matter what. That's just life, So now, when you put your money towards something, you got to go, well, is it going to be for that or this? Because it's going somewhere, right? And the more if you value the community that you're participating in, when it has financial power, then it can stand and speak for you and with you to say whatever you want. But if you're feeling like I have no power, I have no voice, that's just not true. It's just you're not participating in the place where you do have power. Every dollar or euro or zloty that I have is a part of my expression. Whereas before, maybe there wasn't that opportunity anymore because I had to give it to some large corporation. Now you don't. Now you have a studio, now you have ciphers, now you have jams, now you have this. You connect yourselves through Facebook, through events, through various things. Forums like this. This kind of participation is you giving value to your community. And the more you do that, the more it becomes empowered. And the more you empower those kind of things, nothing can stop that. There's no more, at this stage, there's nothing that stops the power of participation. But know that just watching things, just seeing things happen in front of you, just liking them on Facebook is not enough. Because that's sometimes the functional difference. And when I talked about labels earlier, I said, be careful of the street dance label or street this, that, and the other, because what happens is we feel differently about what we're in because it's lower value, when in fact it's of the same, if not more value, in any other institution, the school that you go to, the car that you drive, same amount of value. It needs the same amount of care. It needs the same amount of support. Once we start seeing it as such, then we can start doing a lot more things that you probably want to do in the first place. We can complain a lot less, and some of those videos we're seeing online, some of those movies that we go see, they'll start looking a lot more like us. Right? We don't have to worry, we don't have to be upset about the next Step Up movie because it sucks, because we are participating in it now, because we've empowered ourselves. We've got some great studios in Poland, right, that produce great work. You need to go to them. You need to figure it out, financially and otherwise. hey, let's produce film, and then take that to the film festival, and then let's make sure that all of our friends vote, and then let's kind of get that. Oops, this is here. And then if somebody sent a little app thingy, I don't know. but let's participate in that way, because we can. We really actually can. And I think that can make it from being, feeling like you're being left out or being pushed away to being an exciting time where you are a physical part of change. So yeah, I guess that's kind of my take on dance, our underground dance forms, our street dance forms, as being a part of communities. I think that our dance forms are a form of communication. I think it's adding to the social dynamic every day. I think it's making people question themselves, question maybe even the values that we've had like over the years about like who I am and who you are and what we're supposed to be. And now that's all coming together, right now. And so since we have that opportunity right now, I say that we should really kind of capitalize on that. Continue the dialogues, both through the dance, through the movement, which is, of course, the core, and then continue that through things like this, through through studio cultures, through events, and so on and so forth.
Okay, thanks. There's a question from Evelina. Is there something that has no expression value on its own?
Well, I mean, okay, that's an interesting question. I would say that, like, is there something that has no value? Well, everything has value. Like this little, see, that's how nerdy I am, right? This little micro SIM adapter, right? It has value even if I don't own a micro SIM, right? Because it's plastic, right? And it's got weight, right? It's got some kind of shiny stuff on there. So, and then somebody made this, right? So there's the person who put the shiny stuff in here, and then probably the person who made the machinery to make the plastic, and maybe somebody else to even design the little sticker, right? So does everything have value? Yeah, sure. It's all out there. When it comes to expression, since I just kind of spoke about the different circles, kind of of community, or of how hip hop gives value, it's first to say that, yeah, I have value, right? Now, if I paint a beautiful picture, can a person who is blind appreciate it? It's there, and it can be amazing, but for the person who can't see, I have picked the wrong medium. I've picked the wrong way of expressing myself to the person who can't see. So it's not that it doesn't have a value. It's just that it's it's just that it's kind of the wrong means.
Sorry, Byron. If you said about this, that if you paint something and somebody blind will not see this, but he could, I don't know, touch this, and he will have another expression that other people that could see that, but they don't touch this like the blind. The blind, so sometimes blind people, blind people have, I don't know, another, maybe better expressions about some things that the other people, like, I don't know, the people so not normal, but that could see, they don't have expression like blind. So I wanted to say about that you told us. So.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's actually. I mean, it makes it even more interesting because, um, like, okay, if I work with oil paint has texture, right? So, um, I'm inviting a blind person to put their fingers over the oil paint. But then, if I invited a blind person, I would probably also put what we call as a polymer. It's like a plastic clear coat painting, so that when the hands touch it, the oil from the hands don't change the painting. So, like when you go to a museum, right? They say, "Don't touch the painting," blah blah blah, right? Like, but maybe it'd be interesting. But you know what I mean? I'm saying I'm going into this because I think that sometimes we do limit ourselves, right, in the fun, in the value of some of this type of stuff. Yeah, you're right. It's like, hey, it is interesting. How would I paint for someone who's blind, right? And by looking at that and then looking at the value in that, right, and communicating like we're doing now, it is interesting. And do I have artist friends? And will I have an interesting conversation with them at some point in my life? Maybe talking about what we just talked about? Hell yeah, because it is. I think it is. To me, it is interesting. What brought us together? Dance, right? It'd be impossible for having this conversation if the communities of our dance didn't exist, and then if we weren't going, hey, like right now, none of us are jumping around yet, but but still, we're having interesting dialogue, with respect to things that are just about art or the arts, you know. Um, and I think that's I don't know. I think that's actually really really quite exciting. So I think it all again it keeps tying itself back in. Like I'm realizing it wasn't exactly a question, but it sure was fun. So I'm glad you said that. Does everything is there anything that any expression that doesn't have value? But I think that's a really I think it's a really interesting, if it's a sentence or a statement or I think it's really interesting because I just find, like I said from earlier, that a lot of people are really having a very hard time with seeing themselves as having any real value to even the communities that they're participating in. And to me, that's the biggest tragedy. It's like, you're having value right this second. No, I'm not. Oh, crap. Because then you leave it to sometimes a few people who, may or may not have your best interests at heart, and you're telling them, yeah, you guys have all my values. I'm giving you all the power to express me. And that's that's sad. At least you can agree with something or something. You know what I mean? Like, get in there and say, hey, I like black hats. Woo-woo. Because you're going to feel better. Because you're just going to feel better about life. It's going to be better that way than just standing back and being like, I don't know why anybody's saying that we aren't wearing more black hats. People should be saying that. Why are you telling us what people should be saying when you should be saying it? Let us know what you feel. You take that first step. Okay, here's an easy one, right? So many dancers are afraid to go to like mainstream clubs because, oh man, they don't understand us. Oh man, they don't let us dance. Blah 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 blah. Now
You're right.
right? So and it's maybe it's true to a certain degree, right? But here's the equation that I gave to my friends in Austria. Right? You walk in a club, and if the club has a situation where you can do this, and you see the few people, or say a party, right? You see the few people who are dancing, and maybe they're not awesome, right? Maybe they kind of are just wiggling a little bit, and they got a drink in their hand, but they seem to be enjoying themselves. Now you, the dancer, walk into the situation, and you're like, oh, they suck, right? And you're like, I'm totally gonna smoke them. This sucks. Wait till they see my stuff. Or you're like, I am not even gonna be here. This is below me. It's not a dancer party. So whatever, I'm out. Right?
That's bullshit.
Right. Exactly. So my equation is one: you go over to the people who are doing their little hopping thing or whatever they're doing, and you smile. And then whatever they're doing, try it. Who gives a crap? If you're a good dancer, you're still going to be a good dancer. Don't freak out. Just try whatever they're doing. If they're moving left to right, then do that. If they're bouncing their head, then bounce your stupid head and have a little fun with them for a second. Next.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, it's like that. Oh my God. Love this song. Love this song. Okay, cool. Now that we've established a little head bounce, head turn, neck thing, right? You go to the DJ, and you don't request any songs, you don't do anything, but with the time that they play something that's even halfway decent to you, you run over, and you're like, hey, good job. I think you are so awesome. You rock, right? Wait a minute. You're not asking for a song. You're not bothering me. You're not, like, just drunk off your face. You're just saying thanks? Holy crap. Let me play more music like what you like. Okay? Then you run back over to the head boppers. DJ plays another song you like, and you ask them, isn't this song amazing? To which 9 times out of 10, they're going to be like, yeah! Now, you're dancing, DJ's happy, the people you were jumping around with are happy, and now people like other people start coming over. Why? Because there are happy people in the middle of something, and most people don't want to be sad. They don't want to be lonely. They don't want to be scared. So they just start coming over to you because you're not scary. You don't make them feel lonely, and you make them feel happy. After a while of head bopping, you can insert your skill into the head bop a little bit, but don't make people stop bopping, because that would be stupid, right? It takes away people's happiness. But you do this for, I give it 30 minutes to an hour, right? Oh, it's going to kill you. Oh my God, it's going to kill you. You're going to just like head bop for a little bit, and then smile at the DJ and smile at people who are doing it too. Then turn around and look and see if you're the only 3 or 4 people on the dance floor anymore. Odds are there's going to be like 5, 10, depending upon the size of the venue, even 100 people who are out there popping their heads too and feeling happy. And they're going to start imitating you a little bit. So if you take your little head bop and throw a little side step in there, nothing crazy. They're going to imitate you. Why? Because you make them feel happy. And you made the DJ's going to try and play at least something that you can keep that vibe going because you made the DJ feel good. See, part of this skill and part of this, all this stuff that we do, it's a part of this regular life. But when we take who we are and pull ourselves out of our normal communities, then how do you expect that they're going to treat you when you make them feel like crap? Right? Yes. Was there a time 20 years ago when everybody generally had a little bit more rhythm? Sure. So what? I don't have a time machine, and if anybody does, let me know. But what I do know is, I have.
Normal life is not a competition, so.
That's right.
Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. Oh yeah, let's back you. No. But But in a time when people, I feel like they want to, they want to, feel like they're a part of something. You can be a part of including people, and then you can go from that place into showing that things can grow, things can become better. You can take this expression and go to this level with it. But I think the first step is participating, is coming back and participating in those communities again. You know, don't alienate, don't push people away yet if they haven't pushed you away. Try to find ways to reconnect with the people, make them feel like they're okay, and then take it up, take it up, take it up, take it up. You're not becoming them. You're understanding them. I'll say one last point, and with respect to this, and then I guess we can wrap up. But I also see a lot of battle dancers who couldn't do what I just described because they have no idea how to participate with other people in dance. Okay? Going back to, again, some of the buzzwords that we spoke about earlier, if this is social dance, if this dance is a form of communication, right? I haven't, maybe another day we'll do something about sports versus expression, but that'll be for another day. But if this is a form of expression and communication, then if you are unable to communicate with people in your dance, then are you really that good at it? Right? I challenge people, who have been working very hard, and I'm happy that they work very hard to attain certain skills and feelings and abilities within this dance, to not only be able to dance for other people who are on that same path, but see if it translates to other people, other dances from other dance forms, other artists, people who paint or do other things, to people who just like to consume the music, people who like music. Just go and see if your dance translates, if people understand you, can feel you in these other arenas. Because if they don't, then maybe a part of your dance can grow beyond just moving faster, jumping higher, or being more flexible. Maybe there's another part of your dance that has an opportunity to grow as well. I also believe that if you can grow that part of your dance, if you can become an effective communicator with dance, then a lot of the things that are challenging to the dance community, including having enough people in dance classes, having people, regular people come to parties, come to events, and just enjoy it. I think if we can start to bridge that gap, more of the public will want to participate in more of the things that we are. So let's also be careful to not overvalue the sport component of our dance and undervalue the communication part of our dance, because I think that will also lead to a loss of value in what we can contribute to the communities that we're all participating in. And in turn, you're losing the opportunity for the financial freedom, for the other things that come with the people who are next to us, to the left and right, and coming and participating and feeling like it's okay. They're not a great dancer, but they're coming to the workshop. They're going to take class. You know what? I've never danced before in my life. Is it okay? Of course it's okay. Why is it okay? Because you're a human being. You express yourself. You want to express yourself and be understood, and that's what all of us are. So come, let me figure out ways to help you understand, and teach you and listen to you and help you express yourself. So part of that social change, I think, is going to be is also understanding how we are communicating, again, with the public, and how the public perceives us, and have that be a part of our dialogue and a part of our skill set moving forward. And stop doing that, because now I see that on film, it looks really stupid.
No, what I want to say is that, well, thank you for saying all of this, especially the part about the clubs, which is now my favorite. Because, well, this is what happened when I moved here to Łódź. There were those Monday nights that I organized with some friends of mine, and here is one of the DJs, Luca, is with us right now, and so he was DJing at the place as well, in the pub. We had the club, you know, just for us to create to do those house parties every Monday night, every week for dancers, right? So they can come and share, and so we wanted to create the space for artists, and no one ever came. Like there was just like 1 or 2 sessions that like around 8 or 12 people came from the whole city, and for the rest of the times the club was always empty. Free music, free club, like free space to dance and share and jam and cipher, and nothing ever happened. So, and that was like 2 years ago. So I think this is very important that we talk about it all the time, because here in Poland, yes, people dance in clubs, but dancers, like people that teach hip hop and house, in studios, it's hard to meet them at the club dancing and just, having fun.
I think also is I thought I heard another voice. Um, it's also like let's break it down like empirically why it's important, because that's like I think important, right? So clubs are environments that are designed for you to be who you are and who you want to be. They're dark. They change the way things look in the arena. You like if you make a mistake in the studio with bright lights, everybody sees it. You make a mistake in a club with dark lights, and no one cares, or they care a lot less. They're more about the form and the feeling than they are about the specifics, and that's important to social dance, and that's why we have such dynamics in our dances. Um, so it's almost like it's a part of your training, in my opinion, because you start to learn a lot about yourself and a lot about the dance when it has the opportunity to just breathe for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. I have a whole other talk on kind of the value of the club, but we'll do that another one. But to have a successful night, okay, you need to look at the event in circles. Even the best night in like the same club shelter, yeah, there are people who like dancing. There are people like dancing, people who like dancing to house music, and people who are house dancers. But you needed everybody to have a night. Does that make sense? So, of the hundreds of people that were there, you're actually looking at a number of different communities on the dance floor at the same time. So if you just like to dance, come to the party. That means go to every studio, ballet studio, modern dance studio, and just know there's going to be great music, great dance music, and an opportunity just to have fun. Done. Then, or just people who like music, they'll come, they'll two-step. They're not going to be good. Who cares? Come. Then you have specific forums. Like, hey, b-boys, this is a cool space where you can do your thing and meet girls, or if you're a b-girl, meet boys, because in their standard format, it doesn't work very well, right? But this is a social format, so they can like socialize and still do their stuff. So you come too. And then, if you're a house dancer or something, hey, come. But guess what? People are going to love your house or get a chance to see house because not only are house dancers there, but b-boys are there, and modern dancers are there, and ballet dancers are there, and people who just listen to music are there. And you don't have to feel so alone because everyone, if nothing else, is appreciating you. And so to have, it's always been a situation where, like, in my opinion, the most successful clubs have never been necessarily tied into one tiny group. It has always been all of these various circles intersecting at different points. And if it's only 5 house dancers, but 300 of everybody else who loves what you do, dancer who is not seen, in a certain respect, one will say that the dancer who is not seen does not exist. So just by having an audience of people who appreciate you gives you a special value. So again, as we have like nights that are geared for dancers or for specific music or whatever, be careful that we don't, in my opinion, target the quote-unquote specific group, small group of dancers first. Because generally speaking, those people have always been the minority. It's never ever been that the entire club was off the hook dope. People sell it like that, but it's just not true. The Paradise Garage had a lot of people who loved music. They loved music. But there were some garage heads who were dope dancers. They just didn't make the other people feel like crap. So, and those dope dancers, sometimes all they did was put their hands in the air for a moment and just have a moment as a human being, and then sometimes they jumped off a speaker and did a backflip. But they weren't doing backflips all night, And so I think it's just, again, it's important to recognize the landscape of the most successful dance things, and then try to learn from them and use those things to help have successful events going forward.
Okay, thank you. Wow, thanks. Okay, so people, this is the last chance if you want to ask any questions. And if you don't, then I have something that I just thought about it when you were talking. And I took some notes. I have my little paper right here. It's a mess, but it makes sense to me. And I wrote down some words, but I don't want to say them, tell you what I wrote. Because I want all of you that are here, or all the people that will be watching this later after this conference is finished, I would like you to create something based on whatever you remember from this conversation that we just had with Byron. So whatever refers to you the most, or whatever touches you the most, or whatever made you think, or refers to your life, to your experience, or to your dreams. Like, our language is, the dance is our language basically, right, as we said before. So we can use it to talk and to express ourselves, right? So I would say that, you can create a show, or you can create, do a little choreography, or a little freestyle, or a video, or I don't know, if you want to write something down, you can write it down and post it somewhere, or send an email to me or to Byron or to all the people that are here. That's something that that could change your life. For example, for me, it's fear. You said something about fear, how it stops us, and that we should get rid of it, or the connection, or the consumption. That was very big chunk of the conversation, and I think it's really important. And what's good about this program is that we can watch it and listen to this again, so it's still there. Now it's your choice if you want to do something with it or not. So yeah, that's all from me. I just I would love to see how this thing, whatever you listen to, affects your life and mine as well. I'm curious what I'm gonna do about it, because I want to do this as well. So yeah, thank you. If anyone wants to say anything, then go ahead, do it. That's the last chance. And thank you, Byron, for doing your little speech and being so open-minded and going for it, because I know there was little trouble, but we're all good, right?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Again, I look forward to seeing more of this kind of dialogue, and tying in additional participants from other areas, and I think it's something we need to kind of keep going so that everybody can keep growing.
That's right. Okay. Thank you. So yeah, last words from me are thank you to Magda and Piotr if they're still listening, and Together Polska and Virtual Dialogues for Social Change community for helping me out and creating this event and all the other events that just happened and all the other events that are going to happen, because I'm definitely inspired and I want to use this Google Hangouts, Google Plus thing and just keep going, because I think this is a good thing that we can actually talk with other people from all over the world and yeah, express ourselves, right? Okay, thank you. So that's it. Thanks.
Okay. And talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.